Let's talk about how I would build a dominant fantasy football team from every draft pick. Your draft is probably coming up. You're preparing, you're finalizing everything that you want to do. Well, we're going to go from every single pick, break down every single round, talk about the overall strategy, the guys you should be targeting, avoiding, sleepers, everything. So if you do enjoy this video, if you could please like it, subscribe to the channel, and if you already drafted, comment down below what your roster looks like, and I will grade it on a scale of 1 to 10. All right, let's start with the first 4 picks, the 101 to the 104. We're going to break it up in chunks here because the strategy is pretty much the same in these first 4 slots. For me, I want to draft an elite receiver, the obvious guys, Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Collins, Neighbors. The only running backs that I'm going to take here in this spot would be Bijan, Gibbs, or Saquon. And the strategy behind taking an elite receiver in round 1 is because of the value at running back in round 2. All right, so round 1, pretty simple. You can't mess this up. Draft an elite receiver and feel really good about it. In round 2, draft an elite running back. I like Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, Kyren Williams, Chase Brown, even James Cook in this spot. It's a very strong value pocket at the running back position, much better than the value at wide receiver in round 2. Like if you take, let's say you take Bijan Robinson first overall. On your way back, your wide receiver 1 might be Garrett Wilson, JSN, Tyreek Hill. Not as good as if you did the reverse, which is what we're talking about right now. And I think all those running backs that I just mentioned can finish top 12 at the position. The only guy that I would like to take, the only receiver that I would like to take at the end of round 2 would be Ladd McConkey. I'm okay with JSN, right? It's just I would prefer to go after running back in round 2 at this spot. But again, understand your platform, understand the ADPs, understand your league's tendencies, your scoring setting. All that stuff obviously does come into account here. Moving on to round 3, draft your RB2, take whatever's left, right? On that comeback around, Bucky, Chase Brown, Kyren, James Cook, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson are 2 new guys in there. Any of those guys are really strong RB2s who are likely going to be workhorses on their offense. Talking about Omarion Hampton, like Najee Harris probably going to be active week 1, but he hasn't been in training camp at all, pretty much, with this eye issue. So obviously we don't know what the split's going to look like, but I'm betting on the more talented player, the former first-round pick that has been in training camp this entire time. That's a workhorse, big back, explosive. He can be effective in the passing game as well. Talking about Omarion Hampton here. If you want to go for that upside play in round 2, Hampton is your guy. Obviously, I'm taking Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, and Kyren over Hampton. But after that, I have no problem taking Hampton above James Cook and Travion Henderson. Here's the biggest tip through the first 3 rounds that I can give you. No matter how you do it, just make sure, ideally, you come away after the first 3 rounds with 2 running backs and 1 receiver. So it doesn't matter if you start with the running back. Ideally, I want you to start with the receiver. But at the end of the day, after the first 3 rounds, have 2 running backs and a receiver because there's so much value at the receiver position later in the draft. The running back value really does fall off. So on to round 4. I'm going to call this the wild card round. What positions do you still need? Did the draft not go how you planned, right? Which that obviously is going to happen. So maybe you need a running back here. Maybe you really need a wide receiver. If you want to go running back, I like Devontae Adams. Now that Matthew Stafford hopefully is going to be healthy for the entire year. Obviously, there's some risk there if Stafford re-injures that back, but Devontae Adams' upside is insane. I think he definitely has double-digit touchdowns this year. I like Cortland Sutton as well, and Rashee Rice, who, yeah, he's suspended until week 6, but once he comes back, he is a top 5 receiver in fantasy. So I have no problem taking Rice in round 4. If you really need that upside swing, I have no problem with it. But if you want to go a different route, then take George Kittle at tight end would be my other suggestion, or one of those elite running backs. If Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, or Joe Burrow are there, take one of those guys. Just because, like I said, and every platform is different, but from what I've noticed, round 4 is kind of gross. There's not like a clear value at any position. So calling it the wild card round, if a really good player falls, then take them. You don't always have to follow this formula to a T, right? Take the value. Take the star players. Don't be like, oh, I need a running back, and then reach for a guy who's not as good as the guy that's on the board, right? Be smart in that sense. But I think overall with round 4, there's a lot of flexibility. I do like to take elite quarterbacks. I just like having that surefire top 5 quarterback on my team. It just makes me feel good. It makes me feel like my team is a lot better. So again, too, if you started with 2 running backs and an elite receiver, I have no problem taking a quarterback in round 4 if it's one of Daniels, Hurts, or Burrow, because in round 5, draft your wide receiver 2. There's a ton of good wide receivers in this round. If Davante Adams is still there, take him. You know, I love George Pickens, Jameson Williams. I think both guys have breakout seasons. If Rashee Rice is still there, if you can wait to take Rashee Rice, then do it. A lot of people are probably going to be scared about the 6-game suspension. So if you feel like, again, know the vibe of your league. If you feel like a lot of people are going to fade Rice, then wait to take him. I also like Cortland Sutton here just because I think Bo Nix and this Denver offense is going to be even better this season. Ted McMillan, who is probably going to drown in targets this year. Adam Thielen, we know, is gone. There's just really no one in this pass game that I really like outside of McMillan. So if you want a rookie, who we love rookies because of the upside on what should be a better offense with Bryce Young, who is becoming a better quarterback, and a really explosive player in McMillan, I think he's probably my favorite upside pick in this round, and you guys know how much I love Pickens and Jameson Williams. If you do need a running back, Chuba Hubbard, James Conner are fine picks as well. All right, we're going to merge round 6 and round 7 together, and the strategy here is to hammer upside receivers. Emeka Egbuka, who you know we love on this channel. I think Travis Hunter has a huge year. Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave are 2 of my biggest bounce back players this season. And then Rome Odunze in this new Bears offense. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for Chicago. I love Ben Johnson here. It's a revamped offensive line. Caleb Williams is going to have time. Odunze is an athletic freak, 9th overall pick. Like, he is going to have a crazy year. So take any of those guys. If you need a running back, RJ Harvey for the Broncos. Love him this year. And if you need a quarterback, Bo Nix, right? I love the Denver Broncos this year. And the value that Bo Nix has is crazy just because of the upside in this offense. He was a quarterback 6 in fantasy points per game from week 5 on. And I believe that, fact check me on that. And now in an offense with even more weapons, I think he is going to go crazy. And then round 8 plus, the moral of the story, the strategy, target upside. Target those rookies. Target those rookie receivers. If you haven't taken a tight end yet, you guys know my guys. Tyler Warren, love Warren this year. I think he's going to see crazy volume in Indianapolis with not many weapons on offense in terms of in the passing game. Tucker Kraft is my second favorite target at the tight end position. And then if you haven't taken quarterback yet, Dak Prescott, probably going to have a huge year with really good weapons in the passing game. Ferguson, Pickens, Lamb. I like Drake May and Jordan Love as well. If you're one of those guys that likes to weigh down quarterbacks, those will be some strong targets. So this is what your team could look like. Quarterback Bo Nix, Bucky Irving, Kyren Williams are your running backs, CeeDee Lamb, Rashee Rice, Emeka Egbuka, Tyler Warren, and Travion Henderson at the flex. That is ridiculous. I will caution to not take too many rookies if you are going to invest in Rashee Rice because rookies tend to start slow. I think Emeka Egbuka doesn't start slow, but Travis Hunter may. And if you're not going to have Rice through the first 6 weeks, you don't want your whole team to start slow. Again, I have no problem taking Rice, but just keep that in mind. Also, if you play on Yahoo, Rice cannot go in your IR spot. They do not let suspended players in the IR spot. So you have to eat a bench spot for 6 weeks. I don't know how it is on the other platforms. I think a lot of them are the same. So look into that before your draft because that could be the difference. Putting Rice on your IR spot and then being able to pick up another player is huge. If you can't do that, that could be tough at times, depending on your injuries and whatever happens in those first 6 weeks. But the general rule of thumb, know your league, scoring, league mates' tendencies, ADPs are also going to be a little bit different depending on what platform you draft on. I tried to take the average of all of them, but it's always going to be a little bit different. Stay water, be flexible. If talent falls to you, take the best available. You don't have to follow this to a T. This is just a guideline. It's not a rule book. Have fun. Draft your guys. Draft the guys you want to watch. Fantasy football is supposed to be fun, right? So that is how I would attack if I was drafting from the 101 to the 104. If there's something in here I didn't cover, drop it down below in the comment section. I will be happy to answer it. All right, moving on to the 105 to the 108. In round 1, you have a little bit more flexibility here, depending on obviously who falls to you. So you can take an elite running back, take an elite receiver. I have no problem either way. My targets would be Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, Genty, or Derrick Henry at running back. Again, I've talked about Henry. He makes me nervous. Not a lot of 31-year-old running backs continue to do what he does. Like the odds are stacked against him. The odds were stacked against him last year, and look at what he did. So he's hard to fade, but Henry scares me because sure, he could score 15, he could score 18 touchdowns, but he could also completely fall off or get injured because he's older. Older players get injured more often, right? I get the whole Derrick Henry is indestructible. He's king. Like, I agree with all those things. It's just like understanding what could happen. We've only seen greatness from Henry, but father time comes from everyone. And if you don't want to deal with your potential first overall pick, like first round pick falling off, and you're okay with like watching Henry potentially score 15 touchdowns, then I would pass on Henry. I like to take an elite receiver here too. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, obviously, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins. I will say in this range, I'm slightly more worried about Amon-Ra St. Brown this year just because I think Jameson Williams has a huge year. Ben Johnson's gone. We don't know what it's going to look like in terms of their offensive scheme. St. Brown is obviously a phenomenal player, but we just haven't seen it. So I'm a little worried about spending a round one pick on, again, really talented player on a really good offense. He just makes me a little bit nervous because of all the weapons they have on offense and because of the new offensive coordinator. And then Puka Nacua, I want to target Davante Adams at cost, but Puka Nacua at cost worries me because, yeah, Matt Stafford's fine, his back's fine, right, until he gets drilled by a 390-pound lineman in the back, then what happens, right? So I'm fine with Davante, but Puka in round one, as tempting and as good as he is, does scare me a little bit. So just be cautious about that. And then moving on to round two, take the opposite position of what you did in round one. I don't love stacking the same position. I like to have that flexibility. So if you took an elite wide receiver in round one, take an elite running back in round two. So my targets in round two, Drake London, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Jacobs, A.J. Brown, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Ladd McConkey. I am avoiding Brock Bowers, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, just because I don't think it's the best for the build that we're trying to do here. So I would avoid those guys at cost. I will say Jonathan Taylor does make me slightly nervous. It seems like he's always injured. We don't know what this offense is going to look like under Daniel Jones. He'll probably be fine. It's probably an upgrade from what it would have looked like with Anthony Richardson, but Jonathan Taylor always just like doesn't catch a lot of passes. He's just not my type of running back I like to target. He's a great player. I'm a little bit worried about JT overall at this spot. All right, so first two rounds, take the opposite position. Don't go running back, or wide receiver. And then round three, take your running back two. What guys are left? Take Chase Brown, obviously, if he's there. Kyren Williams, James Cook, Omarion Hampton, all really good choices. I think Hampton is going to have a big year. I think a lot of people are worried about Najee Harris, but Harris hasn't been practicing at all. We still don't really know if he's going to play in week one. Hampton, they spent the round one pick on. He's an athletic freak. He's a 3-down back. He's a big back on a really good offense, behind a strong offensive line, even without Slater. So Hampton, I would probably rank them Chase Brown, Kyren, Hampton, and then James Cook. And I do really like James Cook this year. So I am okay with going quarterback or George Kittle here. If you want to take George Kittle or Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts, I'm fine with that. That only works, though, if you started the draft with a running back and a receiver. If not, you have to attack the running back or receiver position. My strategy, though, that I would prefer, is tempting as the elite quarterbacks are, I'd prefer if you came away after the first three rounds with 2 elite running backs and elite receiver. Because it just gives you more flexibility. Obviously, if a really good player falls to you, like take the best available. But overall, I would prefer if you started with an elite receiver and 2 elite running backs. Doesn't matter how you do it. You can take an elite running back in round one, or however, as long as after the first 3 rounds, you have 2 running backs and 1 elite receiver, because the receiver position is so deep this year, it just gives you a lot of flexibility. In round 4, we're going to call this the wild card round. I don't love the value pockets really at any position. Again, it might be different on the platform that you draft or if someone falls to you, but the guys that I am okay taking in round 4, Davante Adams, Cortland Sutton, Rashee Rice. I'm fine reaching on Rice here. Again, if you can wait longer to get Rashee, then do it. Know your league, know the people in it. Like, don't reach on him if you don't think you have to, but Rice will be a top 5 fantasy receiver when he's on the football field. And so if you can take Rice and then load up on more wide receivers throughout the rest of the draft, I'd be okay with that. If you don't want to do that, it is risky. The upside is there, obviously. If you don't want to do that, Then running back, I mean, you could take Ken Walker here. You guys know I'm not a big Ken Walker guy. I do love this Clint Kubiak run scheme this year. One of these running backs in Seattle, whether it's Walker or Charbonnet, is going to go off. Maybe both of them have strong years if Ken Walker can stay healthy. So you could take Ken Walker, but you better get Zach Charbonnet if you do take Walker. Again, it feels really risky to me. I'd prefer not to do it. And then in this round, we'll talk about it again. You can go tight end. If George Kittle is there, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow might feel safer than going after some of those riskier Ken Walker, Rashee Rice. If you want to secure your elite quarterback here, again, it's the wild card round. Find the best value. Take the best player available. Stay water with the draft. Be flexible, right? You don't have to follow this to a T. This is just the trends, the things that I'm seeing after doing a bunch of drafts already. And then round 4, draft your wide receiver 2. Again, if Devontae Adams is there, George Pickens, Jameson Williams, Rashee Rice, Courtland Sutton, Ted McMillan. I think McMillan, rookie from Carolina, is going to have a huge year. He's going to see the volume. He's really talented. I think Bryce Young is good. This is going to be a better offense under Dave Canales. I think he has the most upside potentially out of all these guys that I just listed. So I really like McMillan, and I'm fine reaching for talent, right? ADP is just like a general guideline. You don't have to follow ADP to a T. Go after the guys you want. Go after those upside players even if they're a little bit farther down on the board. I'm okay with that. ADP is a guideline. Take RJ Harvey here if he's available, if you want another running back as well. Go get your guys. Go get those talented players on good offenses. Don't feel like you have to settle for a player just because he's at the top of the board, right? No, that's not how we play here. We play to win, and we draft talented players, and we go after these explosive guys, even if they're a little bit farther down on the draft board. And then round 6, round 7, we'll merge them here. Hammer, upside, receivers, hammer the rookie receivers. Emeka Egbuka, Travis Hunter, both are going to have really big seasons. And then 2 guys who I think are going to bounce back this year, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, and then Rome Odunze. I think he's going to be Chicago's wide receiver 1 on a much better offense, revamped offensive line. Ben Johnson's there. Caleb Williams hopefully will have time to throw the football. And if he does, I think Odunze is going to be a monster in the red zone. He could score 10-plus touchdowns easily this year. Remember, rookie receivers are always a strong bet to outperform their ADP. They might feel risky. They might feel scary. But this is where you shoot your shot. Take a chance on these really good rookies, and you'll be happy that you did. And then if you need a quarterback, take Bo Nix, who was really good last year in his rookie year, and his situation, everything in Denver just got that much better. And then in round 8+, again, target upside. If you need a tight end, if you didn't get George Kittle, my rule of thumb at the tight end position this year is draft George Kittle or wait on tight end. Wait for Tucker Kraft. Wait for Tyler Warren would be my 2 favorite targets. So go ahead, draft a tight end here if you haven't, and then hammer upside, hammer rookies. If you didn't take a quarterback yet, if you like to wait at that position, Dak Prescott, going to have a huge bounce back season. I love this offense. They don't really have a set running back. They're going to throw a ton to CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Drake May's in for a big year, and Jordan Love. This is what your team could look like, all right? Dak Prescott, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook, Drake London, Devontae Adams, George Pickens, Tucker Kraft, and Travis Hunter. What? Like, just look at that. That is crazy. That is crazy value. That is a really good team. Again, the general rule of thumb overall for drafting here, know your league, know your scoring settings, know your league mates' tendencies. Kind of boring stuff, but it's stuff that you need to remember. ADP is going to be different from platform to platform, right? So understand that. Understand the platform that you're drafting on. Do mock drafts on the platform that you're drafting on. Be flexible. Stay water. Sometimes you just have to take the best player available. This is a rule of thumb. This is a guideline. Like, you don't have to follow it to a T. Go get your guys. Have fun. Draft guys that you want to watch. That's not a strategic thing, obviously, but be smart with your draft. But go get the guys that you want on your roster. And then last but not least, it's going to be all right. Picks 109 to the 112. You're going to be fine. In round 1, I really like this range here. I think you have a lot of flexibility. You can take an elite running back, Christian McCaffrey, Ashton Genty. I have no problem if you want to take Chase Brown or Bucky Irving here either, honestly. If you want to take an elite receiver, Neighbors, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr. I will say I'm a little bit worried about Derrick Henry, but I feel like I'm worried about Derrick Henry every year. And then he goes crazy, but he's like an old 31-year-old. And if you look at like historic data, like not many 31-year-olds, nearly 32-year-olds finish as top 12 running backs in fantasy. Yes, King Henry is an alien. He's different. He's probably still going to easily have double-digit touchdowns in this explosive Baltimore Ravens offense, but I just worry from like an efficiency standpoint, or we know he doesn't catch passes. What if those touchdowns drop a little bit? Like he went crazy last year and he was still only the RB4 in fantasy points per game. I just prefer to draft a running back that catches passes personally, but go ahead, take Derrick Henry. I'm sure he's going to go crazy again. And then Puka Nacua, another guy in this range, just worries me a little bit. Obviously, Nacua is a monster, but the addition of Devontae Adams, I think Adams scores 10-plus touchdowns this year, which is going to take away from Puka. I know Puka hasn't been a big touchdown guy so far in his career, and it hasn't really mattered. And then I also worry about, Matthew Stafford. He's healthy now, but this back injury, this back issue, like what's going to happen when he takes a hard hit in week 2? Like if this offense loses Stafford, they're done for. So I have no problem of taking that risk on Devontae Adams in round 4, but spending a round 1 pick on a really good player, but knowing that outcome where if Stafford re-injures his back or he's an older player, he gets hurt in a different way, it would not be ideal. And then round 2, take the opposite position. I don't love starting running back, receiver. I think you should have that. Give yourself that flexibility. Don't put yourself in a corner where you feel like, oh shoot, now I really need a running back in round 3, or I really need a receiver, and then you're missing out on these value pockets that I'm seeing. So take the opposite position. I like Josh Jacobs here, Drake London, A.J. Brown, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Kyron, Ladd. Especially with you being at the end of the draft, you don't have a lot of room to gamble. Like you have to start receiver, running back. It can be in any order. You can start with the running back and then go receiver. But through the first 2 rounds, since you have to wait so long for your next pick, I prefer to have that 1 running back, 1 receiver. And then in round 3, you can get a little bit spicy. This is the positive about drafting at the end, is you can take your quarterback 1 here, which I actually found is really smart to do. Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts will be my top targets. Fine with Joe Burrow as well. If you don't want to go quarterback, I get it. If that's not your thing, you like to wait. James Cook is really nice here. George Kittle. I think those 2 guys are huge steals at this cost. I think James Cook, I don't know why people are doubting Cook. Like, yeah, he scored a lot of touchdowns. He's going to have some touchdown regression, but he also signed a huge contract for a running back. I think he's going to be on the field more than 40% of the snaps that he was last year, right? So it's going to even out. And then George Kittle, I think he is going to be huge for this offense that has a lot of question marks at receiver. But the general rule of thumb overall is I prefer to leave the first 3 rounds with an elite wide receiver and 2 running backs, except if you are at the end of the draft, if you are in this range. I prefer to go quarterback if you're like at the 10th or 11th. If you're at the 109, it becomes a little bit dicier to go quarterback in round 3 and then hope that there's your RB2 that you want is sitting there. But if you're at like the 112, go quarterback, go running back, back to back, right? But my rule of thumb typically is after the first 3 rounds, you have 2 running backs and an elite receiver, but play around with it. I think at the end spot here, you have some flexibility to, I'm going to take Jaden Daniels, and then I only have a couple picks. I think I can still get a running back. Look at the teams drafting in front of you, right? Play it by ear and make it a game time decision. If the guy in front of you already has 2 running backs, he's probably not going to take another running back, right? You can be a little bit risky if you want to take a quarterback in round 3. Totally get it if you prefer not to. And then in round 4, if you do go quarterback, take your RB2, James Cook, Omarion Hampton, Alvin Kamara. Ken Walker's here. Here's what I'll say about Ken Walker. A running back in Seattle in this new Clint Kubiak scheme is going to go crazy this year. It's going to be one of these guys. Maybe both of them are going to have strong years. That's if Ken Walker can stay healthy. But if you do go Ken Walker, which I love the upside of Ken Walker. I don't hate Ken Walker. I just hate that he can't stay on the football field. He's always injured. And yeah, if you look back, he hasn't missed a ton of games, but he's always dealing with something. He's always not at 100%. Like he's out on the field, but he's like, oh, he's dealing with this oblique. Like you can tell, blah, blah, blah. I don't really want to sign up for that, but I get the upside case for Walker. He has top 5 upside at the position if he stays healthy, but also Zach Charbonnet, former second round pick in the NFL draft, is no slouch either. And what if this is more of a 50-50 split this year under new offensive coordinator? I think Charbonnet is a heck of a player. So if you do go Ken Walker, understand those risks and make sure you get Zach Charbonnet on your team. If you're kind of stuck here, like how would I rank these guys? I would go Omarion Hampton, James Cook, Ken Walker, Alvin Kamara. That's how I would rank those running backs in this spot. All these guys have crazy upside. I just think Ken Walker's the riskiest, and then probably Alvin is the next riskiest guy just because of his age and his inefficiencies. He's a PPR monster, right? I get it, but eventually he's going to fall off a little bit more, and I just don't know if I want to be a part of that. All right, moving on to round 5. Take your wide receiver 2. I love George Pickens, Jameson Williams. As you guys know, I think both guys break out this year. I also love Tet McMillan, the rookie receiver for the Carolina Panthers. I think he's set up nicely to see a ton of volume. We know Adam Thielen is gone. Not that Adam Thielen probably would have done much this year, but it shows Carolina's confidence in McMillan. He's a really good, talented player. He's a top 10 draft pick. I think Bryce Young is a better quarterback after seeing what he did the second half of last year. Love Dave Canales. Love Dave Canales with his coaching of like the X receiver. Like Dave Canales was a big reason why DK Metcalf went off in his season. Big reason why Mike Evans had a career year a couple years ago. So yeah, McMillan, going to see a ton of volume, big-bodied receiver. The upside is crazy for him this year. I think he has the most upside in this range at receiver. And then you could go Rashee Rice. Obviously, Rashee Rice is going to miss the first 6 games. But when Rashee Rice is on the football field, he is a top 5 fantasy receiver. So if you like to roll the dice a little bit, I have no problem taking Rashee. Just make sure you draft a ton of receivers because you're not going to have him for the first 6 weeks. Maybe don't take all rookies because rookies, or at least most of them, tend to start slow. I will say, though, I don't think McMillan or Ibuka start slow. I think both guys come out scorching hot from week 1. And one thing to note, if you do play on Yahoo, you cannot put Rashee Rice in your IR spot. He's suspended. They will not let you do it. So keep that in mind. I don't know how it is for every single platform, but for Yahoo, I did notice that. And so you have to understand that you have to eat a bench spot for 6 weeks if you do end up going for Rashee Rice. And then round 6, hammer upside receivers, hammer rookie receivers. Sure, it's scary because we don't really know how it's going to pan out, but do you want the next Brian Thomas Jr.? Do you want the next Malik Neighbors? Do you want the next Ladd McConkey? You have to take your shots. Shoot or shoot. You guys know I love Emeka Ibuka. I think he comes out the gate scorching hot with Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan. Who knows when they're going to play? Travis Hunter. I'm all in on Hunter in that slot role for Liam Cohen this year. Slot role in this offense is really important, and it's resulted in 2 huge fantasy seasons or at least from a points per game standpoint. Both guys that I'm about to mention actually ended up getting hurt, but Cooper Kupp was the wide receiver 1 in fantasy points per game under this Liam Cohen scheme until he got injured, and then Chris Godwin was the wide receiver 2 fantasy points per game last year until he got hurt. But I think Hunter, talent mixed with opportunity, mixed with the easy layup targets from the slot, and then you know how he is with the ball in his hands. I think he's going to be crazy this year. And then my 2 favorite bounce back guys at receiver, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave. Don't be scared to draft either. Rome Odunze, I think he's Chicago's wide receiver 1 on the Bears. I really like this offense. I think is going to be better this year. Revamped offensive line. Caleb Williams will have time to throw the football. We know Ben Johnson is a play caller. Brilliant. So yeah, bet on rookies. Bet on younger receivers in this range. And if you want to go quarterback, take my man Bo Nix here, without a doubt. And if you want to go running back, take RJ Harvey. Love Harvey on this really good Broncos offense this year. Top 5 offensive line. They're going to be in the red zone often, and Sean Payton is going to throw the ball to Harvey. Not physically, but we know Payton loves to target the running back in his offense, and Harvey is a really good receiving back. Moving on to round 7, continue to target these upside players. Matthew Golden, who doesn't get talked about enough. Rookie receiver for the Packers, which I don't get. He was a first-round pick. This wide receiver room is a mess right now in terms of injuries, in terms of who's going to be out there. Jaden Reed might not play week 1. We know Christian Watson is not going to be out there for the first 4 weeks. Matthew Golden could emerge right away as a staple in this Packers offense that's going to be really good with a healthy Jordan Love. So go after Golden. I love Deebo Samuel this year. Don't be fading my boy Deebo. I know the energy, the vibes, everything we saw last year was not great surrounding him. I think him suffering pneumonia had a big part of it. And he's on a new team. He's refreshed. He's rejuvenated. He's making $17 million this year. He seems like he's ready to go off. He's not that old yet. He's 29. Maybe he's 30. But I think Deebo eats in this Cliff Kingsbury offense this year. I think he outscores Terry McLaurin in fantasy points per game this season. I love Debo. Rome Odunze, who we just talked about, good guy here. Quinshon Judkins, who eventually is going to sign a deal with the Browns, could be a factor the second half of the year. Really talented rookie running back. And then Caleb Johnson, another rookie running back for the Steelers, who could be in for a big year. Arthur Smith, run-heavy scheme. He's going to get fed this year. And then if you want to take a tight end, Tyler Warren, rookie tight end for the Colts, another guy who's going to see massive volume in year one. And then round 8+, target upside. Hammer rookies, hammer these younger players who are in better situations this year. It's really important to look at that. Like Rome Odunze did not have a good rookie year, but a lot of what happened was not his fault. If you can understand that for multiple players, that's how you find league winners. That's how you win in fantasy, understanding what happened last year and how it's going to be different this year. I think Rome Odunze is the perfect person for that example. It's a much better situation. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, we already talked about it. Go after Odunze if he's somehow available at this spot. If you didn't take a quarterback, Dak, Drake May, Jordan Love, all really good values. And if you still need a tight end, Tucker Kraft is your man. Like I said, really like drafting in this range. This is what your roster could look like. Jaden Daniels, Bucky Irving, Ken Walker, Nico Collins, Jamison Williams, Emeka Egbuka, Tyler Warren, and Ricky Pearsall. I think that is a loaded team. So it is possible, even if you have one of those later picks, to crush your draft. Again, the general rule of thumb, know your league, know your settings, know your scoring, know the ADPs on the platform that you're drafting on. Understand the tendencies of your friends, of your league mates. ADPs are going to vary from platform to platform. Stay water, be flexible. If a really good player drops to you at a position that you don't need, still take them. Sometimes you have to take best available. Get those stars on your team. The draft's probably not going to go how you think it is, right? Think of different situations that could happen at different spots, like practice, mock drafts. Have fun with it. Go get your guys. Target upside. Don't be scared to draft a guy who might be a little risky. Upside wins fantasy championships. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this was helpful. Again, drop your roster below if you already drafted. I'll be answering any questions in the comment section. Feel free to leave them down below. Like, subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.